The Historical Trauma Program for Self-Help or to Support Individual Therapy, a guidebook of hope and recovery for people who experienced childhood abuse, neglect, or abandonment. Copyright Bill Wall, 2024. Note for the audio version. The audio version of the guidebook can be especially important for anyone with dyslexia or attentional difficulties. However, it will be necessary to use the print version of the guidebook alongside the audio. The reason for this is that there are many charts, checklists, questionnaires, and opportunities for journaling which need to be completed in the print version. We have worked with many clients who have used the audio and print versions together with good success. Dedication. This guidebook is dedicated to the hundreds of people who experienced childhood harm and courageously told us their stories, shared their insights, and supported the development of this text. Introduction. Quote, I think there's a part of me that wants to deal with what happened and another part of me that tries to push it all away. Is that normal? End quote. Charlie. There are two groups of people who know a lot about childhood abuse, neglect, and abandonment. The first group are those individuals who were harmed in childhood. No one has a more direct and experiential understanding of childhood trauma than those who encountered it, and this is a point that needs to be acknowledged. Apart from anything else, these individuals are experts by experience. The second group of people are the mental health clinicians and researchers who specialize in the field of childhood trauma. A great deal has been learned over the past 50 years. Specialists now have a better understanding concerning the prevalence of childhood trauma, the impact of abuse and neglect on development, and the ideas and strategies that can really help. This is good news and cause for those who experienced harm to feel optimistic that progress can be made. Although it's an oversimplification, we might say that specialists know about childhood trauma, whereas those who were harmed know it. Both forms of knowing are essential, and when combined, we have a powerful mix of ingredients that can support recovery. A unique feature of the Historical Trauma Program, HTP, is the extent to which it represents a genuine partnership between those who experienced trauma and clinicians. The Historical Trauma Program was designed as a scientifically based model for those who experienced childhood harm and continue to struggle with psychological problems today. Over several years, the HTP Guidebook has been used by hundreds of clients working closely with dozens of NHS clinicians within individual and group therapy. In this way, the guidebook developed as a close collaboration between clients and clinicians. Clients worked with the earlier versions of the guidebook, attended sessions, continually shared their stories, and told us what was helpful and less useful. The guidebook was rewritten many times to include the voices and feedback of those we worked with. Over time, the guidebook came to represent what are seen as the best ideas and strategies from the field of trauma studies and the real-life insights and experiences provided by numerous clients. As confidence in the value of the guidebook grew, it made sense to make it available to the general public. This version of the guidebook is designed for self-help or to support individual therapy, and there is a separate version designed to support group therapy. If you experienced abuse or neglect in childhood, it might sound like a cliche to suggest that you are not alone. And yet, there are credible reasons to see this as true. The challenges of identifying historical trauma and the role of secrecy make relying on statistics difficult. However, We know that there are currently 57,000 children identified as requiring protection from all types of abuse in the UK, and due to the likelihood of significant underreporting, the NSPCC estimates this figure as approximately 8 times higher, about 456,000 children. Taking population size into account, rates of child abuse and neglect appear similar in America, where around 3.2 million children are annually subjected to an investigation. However, the statistics do not convey what the experience is like, and each individual's history is unique. Childhood harm may have taken the form of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, neglect, or abandonment. Or there may have occurred a mix of these experiences. Those who caused harm may have been a parent or a step parent, another family member, a teacher, a childminder, school peers, or others. Harm can occur in the family home, in foster care or residential settings, in school, within clubs, athletic or religious organizations, or in other places. Also, the effects of trauma during childhood and in later life can vary. In other words, there is no single story about who a person is that experienced harm in childhood. They are male and female, people of every age, people of every ethnicity, belief, gender, or sexual orientation, people who are very successful in life, and those who have had serious social difficulties. If someone were to walk past an individual who experienced childhood harm in the street or meet them at a social event, they can't be told apart from the rest of society. While such individuals are unique, the consequences of childhood trauma are not random. In general, people who were harmed as children experience difficulties in getting essential needs met. If we look closer, we can see there are important themes that most people who experience childhood harm can identify with. These themes also help us appreciate the significant challenges posed by childhood harm and point us in the general direction of recovery. 5 themes which pull such individuals together as a group are: first, whereas childhood should have been characterized by enduring safety and love, these individuals had experiences of threat and fear. Second, childhood trauma, in whatever form, compromises a child's developing self. How people come to think and feel about themselves is normally affected by trauma in a significant manner. Third, such individuals are more likely to experience a range of distressing psychological problems in adulthood, including emotional and attentional issues, post-traumatic reactions, psychosomatic issues. In other words, trauma expressed as a medical problem, and so on. For many, this can also include further trauma as an adult, referred to as re-traumatization. Fourth, the effects of trauma often compromise the individual's quality of relationships and general life development. Fifth, the role of silence is often a complicated issue. Many children will have found it nearly impossible to talk about what was happening during childhood, or perhaps they did try to talk about it, but did not get the help they needed. As clinicians, we often find that we are speaking with individuals in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or even later in life, and they are only now really discussing and exploring past experiences. If all of this sounds gloomy, there are at least a couple of points of optimism. As mentioned above, there are good reasons for clinicians and people who experienced childhood harm to feel that progress can be made. And the political and cultural landscape is changing. While research in this area is lacking, more and more people appear to be able to think and talk about what happened to them and to seek help. There are some good books and lots of online resources available for adults who experienced childhood trauma. So, what's different about the HTP? First, you will note, possibly with some alarm, that the HTP is a big program. The guidebook contains 21 chapters, each focusing on an essential theme and related practices, and you will be encouraged to take your time, engaging in an unhurried but sustained pace. More about this later. While the HTP is admittedly a big ask, there is a reason for this. Childhood trauma is cunning, has deep roots, as well as multiple and complex impacts on wellness. Impacts which are emotional, cognitive, affecting how we think, body based, and which affect our sense of self and relationships. It's for this reason that the HTP asks you to go slowly and work with historical trauma in a comprehensive way. Here's an analogy which may help. Lionel Messi is a wonderful football player, but if you put him up against any premier team, things are going to go wrong. Childhood trauma is likewise a challenging opponent, so it's important to approach it with care and have lots of resources on your side. The HTP is not for everyone, and some might need a recovery model with a more narrow focus that asks for less of an investment in time. Second, the HTP will emphasize the need for continued safety and stability. As boring as safety may sound, if you really engage with what happened to you and your recovery, things are going to get emotional. We have seen this happen repeatedly among the clients who have worked with us. The HTP proceeds at a careful and gradual pace, but it will get fairly intense in terms of what you will be asked to remember and think about. Third, and as mentioned, through continuous feedback, hundreds of clients have taught us clinicians what is helpful about the HTP and what needs development. We have been deeply touched by the generosity and tolerance clients have shown and their willingness to help us get the guidebook right. Also, you will find the voices of numerous clients throughout the guidebook. This not only acts to complement research and ideas from trauma studies, but it can also be really helpful. On countless occasions, people we work with have told us how the words of a client found in the guidebook have been comforting, inspiring, or helpful. Fourth, while certainly not exclusive to the HTP, our model is firmly based on the principles of mental health recovery. Childhood trauma is not seen as a mental illness that an individual must simply live with. The program attends to post traumatic symptoms, the painful stuff, but is also greatly interested in post traumatic growth. An individual should not merely aim for some state of stability, but should be supported to develop their unique abilities and create the life they want. People who experienced childhood harm are seen as active and capable participants. The principles of hope, empowerment, learning, personal identity, creativity, and meaning are essential for recovery. General overview of the program. Where do the ideas and strategies which make up the HTP come from? Or what's it all about? There are three ways of answering this question. One, there are several available books which can support those who experienced childhood harm, and most can be helpful. However, many available books are based in a particular model of helping, or they focus more narrowly on specific topics. The HTP is highly integrative. This means that the HTP is not tied to one model of trauma or psychological therapy. Rather, the HTP relies on the most useful ideas and practices from a wide range of theoretical models: psychodynamic, attachment psychology, humanistic and existential, cognitive behavioral, body based approaches, compassion based approaches, neuropsychology, and more. The HTP covers a broad range of significant issues or needs related to childhood harm. If you have read other books on trauma, the HTP can support your confidence and help consolidate your recovery. However, because of the breadth of topics covered, the HTP can be a good place to start. 2. The HTP is informed by what we see as the most valid and useful medical and psychological research. 3. As mentioned, the HTP guidebook has been used with hundreds of clients over several years in individual and group psychotherapy. Clients describe their experiences and often share their personal insights, which you will find throughout the guidebook. The ethos and structure of the program owe a debt to the groundbreaking work of Judith Herman. It was Herman who really understood the need to feel in control and the importance of relationships to recovery. In Herman's words, quote, "The core experiences of psychological trauma are disempowerment and disconnection from others. Recovery, therefore, is based upon the empowerment of the survivor and the creation of new connections." End quote. Historical traumas involve circumstances where a child experienced a profound lack of control. This sense of lacking a healthy sense of control is often carried into adult experiences and relationships. Clients can share with us this sense that past traumatic events exert control over their minds or thoughts, their body-based reactions and related emotions, and even at times their choices or behaviors. Consistent with Herman's view, the HTP seeks to empower you to develop a healthy sense of control and find connections with others. There are many essential ways you will find here of working with your mind or thoughts, body-based distress and emotions, and the behaviors or choices you will decide to make for yourself. This program contains 21 chapters, which you will work through. You will be introduced to what we believe are the most helpful ideas and strategies for understanding and overcoming the effects of child abuse or neglect. The insights you will find here come from a broad understanding of research into complex trauma, our clinical experiences, and numerous exchanges with people we have supported over the years. The initial pages of the guidebook provide opportunities to establish any necessary safety and stability. The words of the British philosopher A.C. Grayling perhaps capture why safety and stability are so important. Quote, "It is often the case that truth is as painful as it is liberating." End quote. While this guidebook will not aim to tell you what is true, your work with it can help you build on previous insights or find personal truths. If you are like many who engaged with this program, such insights or personal truths can be, as Grayling suggests, painful as well as liberating. This is why a focus on stability can be so important. Part 1 then allows you to explore the nature and impact of historical trauma. You will not only learn a lot about how historical trauma tends to affect people in general, but you will be looking at this in a very personal way. Part 2 can be the most challenging because you will be asked to explore what happened to you as a child in ways which can stir up memories and some difficult feelings, but this is quite a necessary part of the process. Remembering and reflecting on what happened provides opportunities for insight and new ways of thinking, not only about the past, but about your relationship with yourself, others, and life. We then added a chapter right in the middle of the guidebook that encourages reflection on what recovery or personal development looks like for you. Part 3 focuses more on recovery, and you will be offered many ideas and strategies to help you overcome the impact of past trauma, develop your sense of self, get your needs met better, and shape relationships and life in ways important to you. The structure of the program described above reflects ideas developed by Herman, who pointed out that successfully recovering from childhood trauma involves three successive stages. 1. Establishing safety and stability. 2. Processing, or being able to reflect on and make sense of the past. Herman has called this remembering and mourning. And 3. Engaging in life and relationships in new ways which are less constrained by past harm. Herman has referred to this as reconnection and integration. Clinicians and researchers interested in childhood trauma have, over many years, developed specialist language. These professionals use words like somatization, trauma bond, traumatic reenactment, dissociation, and so on. This sort of language can be useful, but comes with a risk. More than anything, the people who use this program should feel empowered and encouraged by what they find here. They should not feel confused and frustrated. Our view is this: it is sometimes important to use specialist terminology because many of these terms have some lovely explanatory power that can support moments of insight. And if you come across a term or concept which seems important, you may want to go and learn more about it elsewhere. The internet is an amazing resource. But we will always do our best to explain such terminology in a clear and meaningful way. On the subject of language, it's been a challenge to know how to refer to people engaging with this program. Language is important, especially when it relates to an individual's identity. For several years, we used the term survivors, which is quite a common descriptor. Many individuals connected with this word, but others felt uncomfortable or even annoyed with it for various reasons. The term victim certainly doesn't work well. As children, many people truly were victims because they lacked the power to respond to what was happening to them. However, as adults, the word victim is associated with a sense of powerlessness or helplessness, which is really not useful. Eventually, we asked the 8 members of one of our therapy groups what language might work best. After some discussion, the group settled on the descriptor people who experienced childhood harm. It's inclusive and captures any or all relevant childhood experiences, e.g., every form of abuse, emotional or physical neglect, abandonment, or vicarious trauma. Occasionally, we use the very similar descriptors of childhood trauma or childhood adverse experiences. We also want to mention a few points about the program's general perspective. The first point is nicely illustrated by some words which were apparently falsely attributed to Ben Franklin. Quote, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn." End quote. Wherever this idea came from, some say it's a Chinese philosopher named Zhong Kang, it represents our view about what makes the program effective. We do not see people who use this program as students or passive recipients of information being taught. Whether you use the guidebook as self-help or alongside individual therapy, the program's success depends on you being actively involved with these materials. It might sound corny, but you will have a relationship with this guidebook. In ways which may be surprising, this guidebook is about you. You won't make a connection with everything you find here, but you will identify with many ideas and certain experiences of others who have used the program. If you are like most, you will see yourself in these pages. There can be a strange sense of recognition. Second, your expertise as someone who experienced childhood harm is as valid as all the research and theory in this guidebook. The program seeks to empower you to get important needs met and develop your life as you wish. With this in mind, the program will never tell you how to think, feel, or cope. Instead, you will be provided with numerous opportunities to reflect on your experiences and experiment with certain tools for change. You can decide what is most useful in the context of your life. Third, we believe there are a couple of values that are important and which you will often find in the subtext of the guidebook: hope and patience. Hope, because however entrenched the effects of past trauma may seem, if you can create reasonable safety and stability and think about your past, there are opportunities for change. Change in terms of developing insight or change within your life. However, a counterbalance to the value of hope is the need for patience concerning recovery and patience with yourself. Childhood trauma normally has deep roots, and the effects of trauma do not want to heal easily or quickly. We appreciate the challenge you are facing, and we are not fond of any model that offers simplistic or quick fix solutions. This program itself requires patience in that it is designed to go at a careful and thoughtful pace. We hope you will make progress within the course of this program, but in certain respects, you are likely to be working with your recovery for many years to come or for the rest of your life. Hope and patience are twin values which can work together for you. Is the program a good fit for you? The program is for adult men and women and is likely to be appropriate if 1. You experienced physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, neglect, or abandonment in childhood, i.e., between birth and 18. If you're not sure how you think or feel about these terms, this is quite common. We will explore them in further detail in Chapter 1. 2. You experience psychological problems related to childhood events. You may experience intrusive and unwanted thoughts or memories of what happened, or you might feel you have to push such memories away. You may sometimes have bad dreams. You might feel the need to avoid situations or people in your life which remind you of the past, or you may have painful psychological symptoms which seem connected to childhood harm, e.g., depression, anxiety, sleeping problems, compulsive behaviors, eating difficulties, being mistrustful or hypervigilant to possible threats, etc. 3. You will likely recognize that abuse or neglect was detrimental to your sense of self. This may be recognized in difficulties with self-worth, self-confidence, or self-image related to impaired self-development. You may recognize that it's been difficult, at least at times in your life, to build or maintain healthy, intimate, or stable relationships. As a result, you may see a pattern, past or present, where you either feel cut off from others or find yourself in painful relationships in which you do not get your needs met. 4. To benefit, there is another essential ingredient: readiness to engage with the program. This program asks quite a bit of you. You will need to consider the impact of childhood events on your development. Think about upsetting events from your past. Work at building insight and engage with specific exercises. So you have to be in the right place to commit the time and resources to do this work. The section entitled Preparing for a Safe and Productive Experience will help you explore in more detail whether now is the right time to engage with this program. Will the HTP help, and are there risks? All models of helping have their strengths and limitations, and we will describe both as openly as possible regarding the HTP. We will also mention a particular risk concerning the HTP. This may help you decide if the HTP is right for you at this time in your life. Based on feedback received and our clinical experiences, the HTP can help in the following ways. 1. You will learn a lot about childhood harm, both in a general and highly personal manner. Knowledge can provide a sense of control and hope, and at the end of this program, you may feel like something of an expert on childhood trauma. You should be able to think and talk about childhood trauma with increased confidence. 2. Through increased insight, you may develop a stronger sense of self. This can mean developing thoughts and feelings that are less self-critical or shame-based. Self-compassion, self-care, and confidence may also increase. 3. You may see improvements in your current relationships or develop healthier relationships. 4. As children try and adapt to traumatic circumstances, their autonomic nervous system understandably becomes more sensitive to possible threats. As adults, they often have an overly sensitive nervous system as a result. Within our therapy groups, it's not unusual for us to see clients in a state of fear or emotional shutdown. Brains and bodies got shaped through experience to overreact in situations where basic safety is present. The HTP can help you make progress with this common issue. 5. You may develop ways of coping which are more likely to get deeper needs met. Reductions in re-traumatization can occur. 6. You may feel more confident developing your life in ways that provide increased meaning and self-expression. 7. You may see an eventual reduction in painful psychological symptoms such as depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, or intrusive memories. However, it's not unusual for increases in psychological symptoms to occur before things improve. The specific reasons a person wants to engage with the HTP are personal. However, there are a couple of goals that are common, perhaps even universal, for almost everyone who comes to this program. 1. There is a need to explore what happened and find words to explain it to yourself and, to whatever extent possible, to others. This is a process of remembering, of making sense of what happened and the impact on your development. 2. Your body and mind need to learn that the threats that existed in the past are over so that you can be present in the moment, play, be productive, and commune with others in ways that are as meaningful and fulfilling as possible. The HTP is designed to help with both of these tasks. However, there are areas of recovery for which the HTP may not be adequate for some people, and the HTP might not even be the right model for you at this time. Certain post-traumatic symptoms related to childhood harm are an example, i.e., intrusive thoughts or images, nightmares, or flashbacks. While the guidebook contains what is hopefully helpful information in this area, it's not unusual for people to complete the guidebook and find that post-traumatic symptoms continue to be a problem. They may need additional specialist therapies such as eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, or CBT for PTSD. Or, if post-traumatic symptoms are very disturbing for you now, it's probably best to engage with specialist therapy before working with the HTP. We spend time at the front end of the program helping you identify instability and ways of responding if it should occur. Nevertheless, for a minority of people, there can be a risk that using the HTP results in instability which is more significant or worrying. If this occurs, they may need to continue their work with the HTP or other models with a therapist. And for those who currently experience significant emotional instability or risk as a primary problem, it's advisable to get specialist therapy for this issue. We have seen many examples of people who made really good progress with the HTP, but they needed to better manage significant emotional instability or risk before doing the HTP work. It's not unusual for a reader to find a certain chapter and topic really helpful, but it may not feel sufficient. The individual feels a need to go further with that topic. In a sense, this is good news and can be seen as more an opportunity than a problem. Part of what the HTP aims to do is stimulate hope and enthusiasm for your recovery. And if you are left wanting more following your work here, that's great. At the end of the book, you will find a recommended reading section for almost all of the topics we cover. This ends the audio for the introduction